All right, campers, it is time to create some items that we can spread around our map, and our players will be able to basically, we'll say for all intents and purposes, pick up those items and project them at the other players to do some battle. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to double click on the blueprints folder, right click in here and say new folder, and I'm just going to call this one items. There we go. I'm going to double click inside there, and now I'm going to right click, go up to blueprint class, and I'm going to create an actor blueprint. Boom, just like that. I'm going to call it base item. There we go. And now I'm going to double click on it to open up its blueprint. Double click, open it up. Perfect. Now I'm going to add a couple components. I'm going to first add the static mesh component, and all this does is determine what it looks like. That's what a static mesh is. And I want the one with the single house. Very important. The single house, static mesh. Boom, just like that. Now I'm going to click back on the default scene root. The default scene root is just this giant white thing here. This does not show up inside your game. Okay, so the default scene root, make sure you have that selected. I'm going to add another component, and this is going to be the box collision. This is what will detect a collision or some kind of overlapping event between the item and your player. Okay, so now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my base item here. I'm going to select that. I'm going to come over into my details and scroll down here. Now, for my base item, I definitely want this to replicate. All that means is it will show up on the server, but if I don't replicate, it won't show up on the clients. So I have to click on that so that all the clients can see this item in their games. Perfect. Now I'm going to come down to the static mesh here. I'm going to leave what it looks like alone, and I'll show you why in just a second, but I'm going to scroll down here to my collision box, and I want to say no, the player can't step up on it, and no, there is no collision between the static mesh and another object. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And now I'm going to come down to my box here and scroll down. Now, for this one, I definitely want to have some kind of collision happen, but I don't want players to step up on this, but I want to say overlap. We can say overlap only the pawn. The pawn is just another name for your player's character. Okay, so if the player runs into this, I want an event to kick off. Okay, so I do want to detect a collision between my player and this item, and so, but I only want it to be that. If I have something else that's moving in my game somewhere, for any reason, I don't think we will be, but if we did, and it crosses over the path of my item, I don't want it to actually destroy my item. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to compile. I'm going to save, and now what I have is my base item. Okay, now I can actually go back in here into my game map. I can right click on this, and then I can go to right at the top here. You see where it says create child blueprint? Boom, click on that, and I'm going to call this carton. Just like that, carton, and I'll do something like a carton. We'll just say carton, just like that. And this will be basically my carton pickup. Okay, basically what I run. I say basically a lot. Sorry. You run over the top of it, your player collides with it, and it gets destroyed, but it also gives you the ability to project something. So I'm going to double click on that and go in, and here's where I can make customizations. If you notice in here, we see something that says inherited, inherited, inherited. It inherits everything from the base item. So if I change something in the base item, all my other items that I created will do that, and that will help us in visual scripting, so I won't have to go to each single item. If I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot something in this script, I need to change that. I can just change that in the base item, and then the rest of my items will inherit that change. Okay, so that's why we are doing this. Now in here, what I can do is I can customize it. I can customize the look, and then eventually I'll be able to customize how much damage it actually does to a player that it I'm sorry, not how much damage, but I will be able to customize what projectile you can throw with it. Okay, so in here, I'm actually going to go to my static mesh. Right here's my static mesh. Now, just to let you know, I actually downloaded a prop pack. I went to my Pro Concepts, Battle Royale, Epic Game Launcher, and in there, I went to the library and I scrolled down to the vault, and down there I think, oh yeah, I imported the industrial props pack into my project. I just had to hit add project, selected my project, and then I added it to my project, and that gave me access to a whole bunch of meshes. So basically in here, if I go into industrial prop pack, meshes here, look at all these meshes that I have access to, and I'm getting the carton box 01 to be able to throw. So let's go back to that, and I can come over here. Let me make this a little bit wider here. I can come over here on this down arrow. In this box, I can just search for carton because I know the name. There it is, carton box 01, and it instantly changes the look of my item. Look at this. If I zoom in, you can see it right there. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to center it. And just to let you know, inside here, I'm navigating the same way I would in the real world. I'm holding down Alt and clicking and dragging. Okay, so I'm just going to center this on that white sphere there, kind of like that. Perfect. And you know what? Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and make my collision box bigger. So I can use my scale tool for that. And let's see if I can. Sometimes you got to rotate this a little bit to get a hold of it. There you go. And I want it to be big enough so that my player will have no problems colliding with it. All right, so I think for all intents and purposes, that's good. Just make sure all your stuff is good in there. And now I can create another item if I wanted to. I could go back to I could go back to my gameplay map, go into content, blueprints, items, and on my base item, what would I do? That's right, I'm going to right click, create child blueprint class, and then I can start working on another item that I can create. All right, so go ahead, have some fun creating, as many different cool items.